Just seeing if anyone out there wants to talk. Would anyone like to talk? Is anyone there? Okay, someone liked the live stream, but no one's on the live stream. Someone's here. Hello, whoever you are. Would you like to tell me who you are? Can you hear me okay? Okay, you are the Layman Seminary. Hello. I did not expect to see you on the live stream here. I don't, unfortunately, have. I'm not very tech savvy, and I don't have the capabilities of actually bringing somebody on a like a video chat or whatever you call it, StreamYard or whatever. I need to figure out how to do that. Renita from Ontario, God bless you. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, so I was thinking of talking about the swords in Luke 22 because a friend of mine who's right here, who might not want me to, no, he doesn't want to be on camera. A friend of mine was telling me about this popular pastor today who received a death threat recently, and not long after receiving that death threat, he got up in front of his church and sort of boasted. It sounded kind of like he was boasting about his security team and how they're all strapped and how anyone who comes after him is gonna be real sorry. And we were both a little bit shocked about that. Anyway, there was somebody who quoted Luke 22 in the comments underneath this video, as though Luke 22 gives us permission to arm ourselves for self-defense. And anyway, it's the go-to passage for evangelicals. In my experience, it's kind of the go-to passage for justifying violent self-defense. But if someone has something else they want to talk about, we can do that. Hello, Jesus Saves. I know who you are. I can't remember who you are, though. I know your YouTube name. I can't remember whose YouTube channel that is. I'm so sorry. Devin, of course. Doing okay, thanks. So, anybody have anything they want to talk about other than the swords in Luke 22? Oh, Devin has a question related to the topic. Okay. Maybe I might not have a very good answer, but throw it out there. Maybe someone's got a good answer. Waiting for Devin to type his question. Does Jesus' commands extend to either animals or robots? in relation to self-defense. Yeah, he says, do not resist evil doers. I feel like, I mean, I think we're allowed to hunt for food. I can't imagine that we're not allowed to kill an animal that's trying to hurt us. It's never. Yeah, I think it's totally fine to defend ourselves against a robot or an animal. I certainly would. Interesting that we're living in a time where I guess people may need to defend themselves against robots, and maybe within our lifetime, who knows? Even if the animal is someone's pet, or even if police. I'm sorry, Devin. I'm sorry. Even if police start using robots in the future, um, I don't. I'm not. I don't mean to laugh at you. It's just something about this is funny to me for some reason. Um, yeah, I would not tell someone who kills someone's pet. If someone's got a pit bull or something and it attacks one of their friends, and their friend kills the pit bull in self-defense. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, if police start using robots in the future, fascinating question. Very interesting. Never thought about that one before. Um, yeah, that sounds like a little more complicated of a question. Not exactly sure. I guess it depends on why do they send the robots after me, and um, interesting question. I don't know. If I'm guilty and the police send robots after me, um, hmm, interesting. If I'm not guilty and they send robots after me, well, yeah, I certainly. I don't think there's anything wrong with destroying a robot. Oh, um, okay, Jez time. Okay, Devin says, I guess it's like if they send a drone after you versus a robot goes rogue and starts acting up. Right. Yeah, I guess if someone sends a robot after me, yeah, I'm not sure I could really give a. I mean, we're supposed to obey the governing authorities, you know. Um, if the police send a robot after me, I suppose I would, just let the robot put me under arrest and wait until the authorities come to question me and figure out what's going on. I suppose. Um, okay, Jez time. Hello. You said, what do you think when someone says Jesus paid for our sin debt? May I ask why you're asking that question? Just give me a little background on you. Do I know you? Do you are you a firm believer in penal substitution, or are you sort of not sure what you believe about it, and are you trying to figure out? Just a little background would be helpful if you want to. My initial thoughts are, I'm not aware of any biblical passages in the New Testament that use that language of sin debt, Jesus paying our sin debt. as though he's paying a fine or something like that. I'm aware of passages that talk about him dying for our sins, or giving himself for us, uh, giving himself for our sins, um, giving his life as a ransom, which is a kind of a different idea than paying a fine or paying a legal debt. At least generally speaking, ransom's sort of a different idea. Um, Paul Braden, how are you? Which Braden are you? I know a few Bradens. Okay, waiting to hear a little more background on you, Jez Time. No rush. In the meantime, oh, Braden. Yeah, David's friend. How are you? Thanks for joining. So, in the meantime, Devin says thoughts on restraining. For example, people have wrestled guns out of people's hands or held down a criminal, not striking them, waiting for the authorities to arrive. Yeah, if someone restrains a shooter, for example, that may save their life, because when the cops come, they may not be very patient. Thoughts? Yeah, my thoughts on restraining. It's like restraining is not necessarily violent in the sense that, you know, restraining someone is not going to hurt them. I think restraining someone generally will escalate the situation, and it's a form of resistance with physical force. Most evildoers, if you try to restrain them, they're going to fight back, and it's going to easily descend into a fight. And I certainly can't say it's okay. I mean, Jesus just says, "Do not resist evildoers," and I'm not. I don't have the. I don't have the wiggle room to say it's okay to restrain evildoers. um, I just think we should stay away from using physical force to try to fight or contain evil. The furthest I can go is that it's okay to use my own body as a shield for someone, to take blows or to take a bullet or something like that. But yeah, I don't feel confident to be able to say that it's okay to restrain someone who's evil. Yeah, uh, it's hard. Jesus kind of puts us in a difficult situation. He says, "Whoever sets aside any of the least of these commandments teaches others to as well. Be called least in the kingdom of heaven." So it makes me very, very cautious about giving any wiggle room at all in some of these things that he said in the Sermon on the Mount. Obviously, restraining someone is better than beating them up or killing them. But Jesus' teachings and example don't seem to give room for restraining. I don't see anything there that seems to allow us to go there with it. I do think it's okay to restrain someone who's not in their right mind, like, if your elderly father who has Alzheimer's doesn't know what's going on, picks up a knife, because he thinks he's back in the war or something like that. I think that's a completely different situation from what Jesus is talking about. I wouldn't put him in the category of evildoer who's persecuting you or wanting to do evil to you. I think he's someone who just doesn't know what's going on, and you're, you know, helping him by restraining him till he calms down or something like that. Same thing with a child who's out of control. Wouldn't put that. I don't think that's the context in which Jesus says, do not resist evildoers, love your enemies, things like that. Yeah. But someone who's a criminal, who's got criminal intent, evil intent, seems like that's the kind of person Jesus has in mind. And there's some reason why he doesn't want us using physical force to try to defeat that kind of evil. Okay, Jez time. You said, no, I don't believe in PSA. I was wondering how you would correct people on this idea that Jesus paid our debt. Yeah, well, I just sort of begin with what Jesus had to say about it. He uses the this ransom terminology, and from the beginning of the Gospels, in Matthew 1:21, we have this idea of Jesus is coming to rescue or save us or deliver us from our sins, not from a legal debt, but from sin itself. And this idea of ransom fits very nicely with that we're enslaved to sin, like Jesus says in John 8, and Jesus is going to set us free in the sense that he's going to break the power of sin in our lives so that we'll be transformed. And as you move through the New Testament, as you move through the epistles, you come across passages about the atonement that are either a little ambiguous, could be understood in different ways, or which are very explicitly, talking about this ransom idea, this idea of Jesus dying to change us, to turn us around, to produce a transformation in our lives. So, yeah, and then there's John 12:32, where Jesus says that when he's lifted up, meaning crucified, then he will draw all people to himself. So those are the two big images we get from Jesus, are that he's going to give his life as a ransom, and that his sacrifice will draw people to him. So it's a ransom that brings people to him. And that's not, there's nothing there about a legal debt being paid, but it's something about, people going free from captivity and coming to Jesus. I think I bring it together with Mark 8, where he says, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. How is Jesus going to get people to come to him and take up their cross and follow him? Well, by his death and resurrection. His death and resurrection shows us that he's the person we need to follow and gets us to come to him. Then as you go through the epistles, you see, 2 Corinthians 5:15, Jesus died so that we would live for him now and not for ourselves. Or Galatians 1, I think it's 1:3 or 1:4, where it says Jesus gave himself for our sins to deliver us from the present evil age. Or 1 Peter 1:17 and 18 talks about how Jesus, his blood was intended to redeem us from the futile way of life that we learned from our ancestors. And 1 Peter 2:24, that Jesus bore our sins on the cross in his body so that we would die to sin and live for righteousness. 1 Peter 3:18, Jesus gave himself, for us can't remember what it says. He died on the cross, and he gave himself for us to bring us to God, to bring us to God. Um, there's a number of passages in Hebrews and the book of Revelation talk about a ransom, being ransomed from sin, freed from our sins by his blood. And so those are like a bunch of passages that are very clearly talking about a transformation Jesus died and rose to produce in us. Then you have some passages that are a little ambiguous, like Romans 3 and 2 Corinthians 5:21, that could easily be read through a penal substitutionary lens. But when you read them through this ransom lens, they're just as easily read that way. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense to just, understand it all through that lens, since that's the lens Jesus gives us in the Gospels. And, we don't have the apostles using the language of penal substitution. We have them using the language of ransom. So why not use that as our lens? And yes, it does free us from the wrath of God. That's because it transforms us into people who are obedient to God's will. And that's why he forgives us and, does not pour out his wrath on us unless we turn back and, are not faithful to the end. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Jazz time. Okay, so going back to the topic of non-resistance, my friend with the Hebrew name, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. You said, are you allowed to defend yourself if you get locked up and unspeakable things are about to happen in the shower? Well, yeah, I've had to think about that, because I've had some women, bring up the question of what to do in the case of rape. And my answer is that, we have a king, we have a Messiah who allowed himself to be mutilated, blindfolded, and beaten, spit on, stripped naked in public, and hung up in public for people to laugh at him and mock at him, naked. He allowed that to happen. I mean, I would rather be raped than have that happen to me. And, the example Jesus has given us, even in cases of something horrible and unspeakable being done to you, is non-resistance and love and praying for them. And, if you can get away, get away. If you can preach to them, if you can talk sense to them, do it. But we don't see anything in Jesus' teaching or example that allows us to fight back to prevent something horrible from happening to us, So that's what I've got on that. Very difficult, but I think if we can grasp what Jesus was doing for us when he suffered in that way, and how he was doing that in order to get through, even these people who had mutilated him, he prays for them, And so it just seems to totally disarm us. And yeah, that's what it seems like to me. Jesus saves. Thoughts on calling the police? Is calling the police a form of self-defense? If someone breaks in your house and you see someone doing bad things outside, yeah, I couldn't say calling the police is always wrong, because Paul notifies the Roman authorities in Acts, I think it's Acts 21 or 22. He notifies the Roman authorities about the plot to, that the Sanhedrin and there's like 40 people, 40 Jewish folks who have vowed to kill Paul, and they're plotting on his life. And Paul notifies the Roman authorities, and the result is that Paul is removed and taken to Caesarea, and the ambush is not able to be carried out. What's interesting about that situation is that Paul's actions avoided bloodshed, avoided death. Not just his own death. I don't think Paul was really worried about himself dying. Paul was clearly willing to die and put himself in all kinds of situations where he could easily have been killed. I assume he, part of the reason he did that was to avoid the bloodshed that would have resulted. I mean, obviously, Paul doesn't want to die needlessly, right? That's also true. So I'm sure he didn't want to avoid that. He did want to avoid that situation. But anyway, the point is that his notifying the authority avoided death, avoided bloodshed. And so I think, we can practice some wisdom and discernment and say, okay, if I call the cops in this situation, in such and such situation, is it going to avoid bloodshed, or is it likely going to result in the death of the criminal or the death of a cop or something like that? If so, perhaps the Spirit would lead us to try to deal with it with Him, to find some way to address the situation in a nonviolent way and trust God with the outcome. But not something that I have a real firm stance on. Okay. Yeah, you said, are we responsible if the cop we call kills the criminal? That's why I would, be very cautious about calling the cops and think through, will calling the cops prevent death and bloodshed, or will it likely result in death and bloodshed? And better, I think it would be better for me, better if I do not call the cops, practice nonviolence, and end up dead, than that I call the cops and either the criminal or the cop ends up dead. Okay. And then my friend with the Hebrew name, I still can't remember your name. Calling cops, especially in the U.S., might be putting people in unnecessary danger. An acorn might fall on their car, for example. Okay. That sounds like maybe that was a sarcastic thing. If so, I understand the sarcasm. I understand why this is a very difficult topic for people to be open to. Jesus Saves said, also, I was talking with a woman about self-defense. I said that having a rape alarm could be something okay. Did I give good counsel? A rape alarm. What would that be? Like some kind of a gadget that makes a loud noise if a woman is being raped? Something like that. I hope what I said earlier, didn't sound like I'm, unsympathetic towards the victims of rape. I don't know what it's like to be raped, and it must be. I know that people have, been horribly damaged by that kind of abuse. I'm just trying to think through this with Jesus' teachings and example in mind. And my conviction is that if we have the Holy Spirit, and if we grasp the gospel, that these kinds of horrible things that people typically go through, and they're left, emotionally damaged, destroyed, we are going to have the strength to go through those things, and we're going to be okay, because we've already signed our lives away. When we become a Christian, we're signing up, for suffering, and to lay our lives down if necessary. We're ready to be crucified. which is worse than rape. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't say that a rape alarm is wrong, Devin. Um, I don't know. It's the kind of thing I would just let someone figure out in their own conscience. Yeah, I don't see, what Jesus says: "Do not resist evildoers," and he's talking specifically about violent resistance or retaliation. And I don't see how a loud noise constitutes violent retaliation. Some people would go really far with the principle and say that you shouldn't do that, but I can't go that far. I you know couldn't say that it's wrong. Uh, Scary to talk about these things. Not sarcasm. Okay. Hey, my friend with the Hebrew name. Tell me who you are again. Don't I know your actual name? I think I do. You said not sarcasm, but acorn thing was a reference to the cop who unleashed his magazine on the cuffed person in the back of his car because he heard an acorn fall in his car. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, right. You could call the cops and you could get someone who's kind of trigger happy and looking for a reason to empty his magazine. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Jesus say, Devin, you said, how do you believe we should teach children about stranger danger while staying in obedience to Jesus' teachings? Interesting question. I mean, I think Christian parents should teach their kids the principle of non resistance and love for enemies from the time that they're able to learn these things, so that they're ready. If something happens, um, and the family is going to have to endure some kind of suffering or death. Um, I have a friend who's got a bunch of kids, and he and his wife live in a context that's um, dangerous. There's certainly no police force for them to call if they were in some kind of trouble. And he's just said, if someone were to break into my house and I know that they're going to do something horrible to me and my family, I would just say, okay, everybody, time to get on your knees, and we're going to pray to God for this person, and trust God with the outcome. Um, anyway, yeah, I think it makes sense to teach them about what Jesus said, and why it makes sense, and why Jesus did what he did, and the implications for us, and how we should love our own enemies and be ready to lay our lives down for them if necessary. Um, just like our Lord did. Okay. Then started my Hebrew named friend, then started rolling and thought he was actually shot. Then his partner heard him and said, "Shots where?" And then he unleashed a. Oh, okay. Jesus said, I mean, stranger danger in the sense of a stranger trying to get the kid into their car, invite them to come to the puppy. Oh yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, to teach your kids. If someone invites you into their car, don't run in the other direction. Run and find your mom, or you know something like that. I mean, absolutely. Um, Teach them to not to go with somebody like that. Well, I'm all caught up on the things that people have asked. We're 34 minutes in. What do you think, Nick? Did I say anything? Did I say anything wrong? Yeah, well, I guess until someone else writes something, I'll just talk a little bit about Luke 22. Am I able to do like a screen share? I can. I can share my screen. Wow, that's cool. Um, oh, Braden, yeah, that in the background, that is David. That is David's cross. He visited me. Um, he visited me sometime early 2024, I think it was, and left his cross that he carried with our friend Matt. Um, yeah, carried it up from Florida, and he left it here, and there it has been leaning since then. Okay, so oh, Nancy, hello, Nancy. My aunt Nancy has joined us. You have something to mention about how the Shroud of Turin cannot be real. All right, feel free to tell us what you got. Um, I think I'm going to get Luke 22 up here. And feel free to share your thoughts, Nancy. I don't have any firm position on the Shroud of Turin. Luke 22. There are 12 people with us. Who are these 12 people? For anyone who may have joined in the last couple of minutes, we've been talking about non-resistance, Jesus teaching on non-resistance, and we were also talking about what were we? Oh yeah, the atonement, penal substitution, and now my aunt Nancy, who joined us, has something to share about why the Shroud of Turin cannot be real. And I've got Luke 22 up, ready to do a screen share to talk about Luke 22, the swords in Luke 22. So Devin says, if I ever became a father, then would need to think through. Then would need to think of these things. Well, I think we need. I do think we need to think of them even if we're not fathers, because we have to make disciples, and we have to be ready to help someone who is a father think through these things. So it's definitely good to think through it. Okay, so Nancy says, John 20 verses 5, 6, and 7. The linens were more than one piece. Okay. The linens were more than one piece. Let's look at that passage. I think I remember something. I think I remember watching a video about this, and that there was some claim that there was a head, some kind of head covering linen in addition to the shroud. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'll just stop right there. Yeah. Okay. John 20, 5, 6, and 7. John 20. And for you, Nancy, I will not use the NIV. I know you loathe the NIV. So how about the King James Version? I know you like the King James Version. Okay, 5, 6, and 7. Then cometh Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen cloths, plural, lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Okay, that's interesting. So it makes it sound like there's one piece for the head, and then there are multiple pieces for the body. So let's look at it in Greek. Let's see what it says in Greek. It is the linen cloths. Is that plural? John 5, Greek interlinear. Here we go. Almost there. Certain man, 30, infirmity himself. Maybe I'll share my screen. Do you guys okay. I hope everyone's interested in this. Okay, so yeah, okay. Having seen Jesus, having known a long time already. Where is it? Why am I not seeing it? What verse is it? It's verse 6 and 7. Okay, why am I not seeing it? Okay, him having seen Jesus lying and having known that a long already time he had been, he says to him, desire you well. Am I? Oh, whoops. Oh, wait, where am I? I'm in John. I'm in the wrong chapter. Sorry. That makes sense. Okay, here we go. Okay. Here we are. He entered into the tomb and sees the linen clothes. Yeah. Accusative neuter plural. A linen bandage, a wrapping. Neuter of a presumed derivative of a linen bandage. And it is, in fact, plural. Very interesting. So it seems that there were, in fact, at least 3 items: the head covering, and then multiple linen cloths around Jesus' body. Interesting, Nancy. I guess a Shroud of Turin defender might say that, we found the shroud was just one of those cloths, and that maybe there was something else around it and we lost that. But I don't know. I have no need to defend it. I'm just, yeah, it's interesting point. Never thought about that. Okay. Devin says, if a child is being abducted and can't get away, should we counsel the child to go quietly, to make noise, but don't strike back? Fascinating question. Very difficult question. Yeah, that's a hard one. I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with making noise, yelling, and something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think we could teach a child to try to hurt the attacker. I don't see how that would be helpful to their soul. But I don't think there's anything wrong with telling the child to make noise to let people know what's happening. And typically in a situation like that, if a number of people come running because they hear the child screaming, the abductor or whatever is going to, drop the child and leave. Okay, what are you guys talking about here? Daughter of the King of Kings, hello. Thank you for joining us. Do I know you? Oh, okay. You want to chat about remarriage, adultery. Okay. Yeah, Nancy, I've seen some of the stuff coming out about the Shroud of Turin, and yeah, not sure what to make of it. It seems, one thing that is kind of, I've seen like the little statue, the life size statue that the Catholic Church made of Jesus, based on the shroud, and it seems like he was like this, 5'11", you know, a guy with long hair who looks just like the pictures that we see of him. And I've always kind of assumed Jesus must have had short hair and probably wasn't this super, you know, super good looking guy like the statue seems to make him look like. But I just don't know anything about this. So okay. Okay, daughter of the King of Kings, you said, if the man I was dating did not make vows for the marriage with his ex, but did file paperwork with the court in Chicago, is it still a God ordained marriage? So he got legally married. Right? But there was no intention of actual marriage, and he didn't actually make any promises to her. They just sort of filled out some paperwork. I certainly could not tell someone that is a marriage that God recognizes. I couldn't say that. I would fellowship with someone who did something like that and then later, repented and entered into a marriage where they actually made vows. I wouldn't, when you hear situations like that, it makes you feel a little uneasy. It's like, is this okay? Because of what Jesus said about it is so serious. But I just couldn't say that there's anything that you're not, that person is not free to then enter into a marriage on purpose. That's not. Daughter of the King, the Ante-Nicene Fathers taught marriage the covenant of vows before God. Without vows, mere civil papers don't make it a God. Yeah, that seems right to me. Devin said, last set of questions. This is difficult. As a black man, we are to obey the authorities, and servants are to obey even harsh masters. So, number one, do you believe the runaway slaves in the South sinned? Number two, do you believe Rosa Parks sinned by sitting in the white section of the bus, and the civil rights activists sinned by practicing civil disobedience? No, I don't think the slaves who ran away sinned. I don't think it's a sin to run away from some kind of injustice. If you were basically abducted, you were basically taken against your will. It's not like they entered into indentured servitude, like the Old Testament seems to be talking about, at least in a lot of passages, or like the master servant relationships Paul refers to in the New Testament. If somebody abducted me, I would not feel like I'm in sin when I see an opportunity and I run away, that I'm doing something wrong. Do I think Rosa Parks sinned by sitting in the white section of the bus in the Civil Rights Act? I don't think civil rights activists sinned by civil disobedience, meaning like disobeying the law of the land. What What in particular are you thinking of, Devin, when you speak of civil disobedience, like breaking the laws about segregation? Because I don't think we're obligated as Christians to obey laws that contradict Jesus' will. And a law that says black people over here, white people over here, is certainly in conflict with the gospel. So I couldn't tell someone who practiced civil disobedience, in the 60s that they sinned. The question about, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Devin. Oh yeah, you've been listening to Frank's sermons, Devin. Awesome. Oh yeah, Daughter of the King. Yeah, I think Braden was just making a point that, it's not like everything that all of the early Christians said is right, but if there's something that they all seem to agree on early on, and we're talking about some important issue here, they probably all agree on it because that's what the apostles went out teaching. So if you've got people in Egypt and Israel and France and Spain and modern day Turkey, church Christians in all those places around the Mediterranean where the apostles had gone out, um, making disciples and planting churches and all that. If people all around that the Mediterranean there are saying basically the same thing about some important issue, it's probably because that's what they got from the apostles. And so I don't know. I haven't read what the early Christians had to say about, the need for vows and stuff like that. But I'm just, saying there is, like, I think the early Christians can be helpful to us in helping us figure out how to interpret the Bible. Not that they're an authority along with the Bible, but if there's some way that we interpret the Bible today, and that interpretation has no support from the early church, and no one's teaching it till 500, 1,000, 1,500 years later, then that's an indication that it probably is not the right way to interpret the Bible. Okay. Anyway, are you a King James only sort of person, daughter of the King of Kings? Devin, you said it is various, and some may not come under civil disobedience, but for example, drinking from white only a water fountain, Montgomery bus boycott, right? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I have to think about that. I couldn't say. What do you think, Devin? Yeah, what do you think? Let me put that back on you, because I know we're supposed to be obedient, to the authorities, and I don't apply that principle to unjust laws or laws that are in conflict with what Jesus said. If it's illegal to distribute Bibles in my country, I should disobey that. And I know that Jesus does not want human beings discriminating against each other and treating people poorly, for any reason, let alone because of their skin color. So, What do you think, Devin? Tell me what your thoughts are. Okay, if they were each other's first spouses, daughter of the King of Kings, did not make vows, but lived as husband and wife and filed paperwork in the courts. Okay, so they lived together. They never made any vows, but they lived together and they filed paperwork in the courts. And there was no intention of being married. There was no uh, did, like was there ever a time at which if you had gone up to one of them and said, "Are you married?" would they have said, "Yes, this is my husband or my wife," or would they have said, "Oh, no, 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 I'm not married. I just did this thing so somebody could get a green card," or something like that? Um, Braden said, "Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet she is thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. No covenant, no marriage." Okay, no covenant, no marriage. That makes some sense. "I am a KJV only. I was deceived into an adulterous marriage by modern versions, ESV." Wow. What was it in the ESV that misled you? Because the KJV, I think, is where the Matthew 19:9 Matthew 19:9 is made to look like it gives an exception. I think the modern versions typically get it from the KJV, at least when it comes to Matthew 19:9. Yeah, I think a covenant would include vows. I mean, a covenant includes, a promise, an understanding, And it sounds like in this situation, there was no understanding. There was no promise that was made. Yeah, Daughter of the King, you said there is an article that lists them as husband and wife. And that does make you a little uncomfortable, right? That's why you're asking the question. But there's a legal document that says that me and my wife are not married anymore. That doesn't mean anything. We are married still, whether regardless of what the legal document says. So if there's legal paperwork that was done, but they never made a commitment to each other, then yeah, I couldn't tell them that they're married in the eyes of the Lord. Okay, ESV says sexual immorality versus uh, versus fornication. Tell me more about what you're saying, daughter of the King of Kings. Oh, Edward says, "I am under the assumption that marriages at the courthouse do require vows for them to be legitimate, as in, if you go to the court to get married, they won't let you do it unless they hear you take vows." Is that what you're saying, Edward? Okay, daughter of the King of Kings, what do you understand fornication to be referring to? Sexual immorality is a bigger umbrella, right? That could involve adultery, sexual activity outside of marriage, bestiality, incest. You think fornication is not a synonym for sexual immorality, but it's just one thing? Begotten, not created. Hey, thank you so much for the encouragement. Nice to see you. Nice for you to join us. God bless you, my friend. Jennifer Mulkey, Tommy, I recall you don't believe in the Jewish betrothal view of the exception clause in Matthew. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's the most plausible to me. Um, I don't rule it out, and I don't have a problem if somebody believes that, because it leads to the right practical conclusions, which I think is what's really important. If you take the betrothal view, then yeah, you can't divorce and remarry after you've sealed the deal. You know, um, so I don't mind somebody taking that view, but it seems like I think it's got uh, some support from the early church, but one problem is that um, well, the Mark 10 passage, which could be a parallel passage, not everybody thinks that, but it could be describing the same event, although the Pharisees may have come to Jesus on multiple occasions to test him in this way. But in Mark 10, addressing um, it's clearly addressing actual marriages, not betrothal. But I know there's an answer to that. Anyway, yeah, I don't have a problem with it, Jennifer. I just don't lean towards it as probably being what Matthew 19:9 is about. And I also think Matthew 19:9. Well, actually, no. The betrothal would apply to Matthew 5:32 as well. Daughter of the King of Kings said, Matthew 19:9, fornication, betrothal period for Jews. Oh, okay. Okay, so daughter of the King of Kings, you take the betrothal view. You think that the exception clause in Matthew 5:32 and Matthew 19:9 is referring to some kind of sexually deviant behavior during the betrothal. Is that right? Hello, Bite Cats. Who are you? Do I know you? Okay, so begotten, not created said, oh, wait, Braden said, whoops. Braden said, one can be forced to verbalize a commitment. It's important that the commitment is in the heart, not only the mouth. Okay, something to consider there. Daughter of the King of Kings. Begotten, not created. I have a topic. Anyone can weigh in. I haven't read my Bible or prayed consistently, not even 5 times, in about 2 months from my old guilt of sin. I don't know how to get back. Are hiatuses normal? I haven't read my Bible or prayed consistently, not even 5 times in about 2 months. Well, thank you for sharing that with us and for being vulnerable and reaching out for help. I don't think hiatuses are normal, in the sense that I don't think we should expect it or feel like that's okay. It's certainly not unusual. I mean, it's not unusual for people to fall away from the faith altogether. And I think, I don't think getting back, moving in the right direction is probably not too complicated. Although I'd want to hear something about what caused this hiatus, what caused you to distance yourself from God, and whatever it was, might affect how I or somebody or anybody else would want to counsel you. Jazz time, are there any Bible teachers that you would recommend? There are Bible teachers that I like. There's nobody who's like really popular, really popular and really well known that I would recommend. There's a lot of people out there who have great things to say about certain topics, but not a lot of people that I could recommend just listen to whatever they have to say about whatever topic. And part of the problem is that, Christianity today is so heavily focused on theological issues and apologetic issues, and not really all that focused on the Great Commission, which is teach people to, baptize people and teach them to obey all Jesus commanded. And trying to find a Christian teacher who's, well known, who actually teaches a serious application of what Jesus commanded, that is not easy. You might find some who teach a serious application of something Jesus commanded. There are teachers out there who have a pretty solid view of marriage and would not justify remarriage under any circumstances unless your spouse dies. But then, they turn out to be someone who's supportive of Christians, fighting for their country, or you find out that they're, maybe living a lavish, luxurious lifestyle, and have gotten quite wealthy off of their ministry, or something like that. So anyway, it's just kind of, it's not like if you asked me, is there someone I could listen to on such and such a topic? I feel like I could give you something there, but I don't know of anyone who's, well known, who I could say, just listen to whatever they have to say and they're going to point you in the right direction. Justin said, Devin said, I don't know. On the one hand, as a black man, I benefited from their activism. Those laws were clearly discriminatory. On the other hand, the Bible says it's good when you are beaten for your faults. It gets into political activism, which perhaps many Christians don't do. Activism for the kingdom of this world, but in a sense, they are loving their neighbor by putting their body on the line. Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting. It seems like in a situation like that, where there's that kind of injustice going on, we just have to kind of practice discernment. And maybe the line is not the same in every particular situation, Interesting. Never really had to, I'm white, so I've never really had to think through that one too carefully. It's also an interesting, like when you think about the gospel, it's hard. Like I can, I want to think about this more before I say anything about it, so I don't put my foot in my mouth or say something stupid, as I am often prone to do. Begotten, not created. My faith hasn't left. Conviction. My faith hasn't left. Conviction is there more times than others. I just felt like, how can God keep forgiving me over and over with my willful porn consumption? I'd be good for a month and slip. The fact he can see it all, and then am I supposed to just pray and say sorry over and over? Then as a bouncer who works in a clubs, ever since I haven't been praying, it's been harder to not entertain lust. Okay, begotten, not created. Are you working as a bouncer in a club right now? That's not. I don't ask that because I'm about to jump on you and beat you over the head. I'm just make sure I understand what you just said. Maybe it would be good for us to jump on a phone call sometime if you'd be up for it, just so I can hear some more of your story. And Braden York, Sermon Index, YouTube, lots of good stuff. Pick out the bones. Not a whole lot, in my opinion. Jesus saves. It's good to hate injustice, but Christ calls us to bear wrongs for his sake and seek his kingdom first. True change starts in hearts through the gospel, not the politics of this world. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't say it was wrong for the people during the civil rights movement to do peaceful protesting, to and then just like take a beating if it came their way, and just be nonviolent and take the beating. Couldn't tell them they were doing anything wrong. I think it's a little awkward to try to imagine Jesus or the apostles becoming involved in a political or cultural movement. Although I don't think for a moment that they would obey laws that, you know, uh, that were immoral. But it's also hard to imagine them, getting involved in a movement like that, because I think the movement they were involved in was preaching the kingdom of God, and the way that they initiated change was not through political activism, but through making disciples of Jesus and spreading the gospel. Um, Braden says, "Flee." Yes, that is biblical sound advice, and I second that. But it would be good to talk sometime, um, just to, you know, hear some more of your situation, your experience. Dan Simpson, how's it going, my friend? Begotten, not created. In 2 Peter 1, there are 7 things we are instructed to add to our faith. Peter says if we grow in those 7 areas, we won't slip. I would start there, brother. More sound advice. Yeah, begotten, not created. I'd like to talk to see what your understanding of the gospel is, because my experience is that often, if someone does not really grasp the gospel, the biblical gospel, and its implications, then it's very easy for them to continue being sort of hospitable to these kinds of addictions and habits. Begotten, not created. You said, with Christ, the most I got up to was 2 months. If you have Christ, you will break free. You will not remain in a binge and purge cycle. But if you really grasp what Jesus is saying, and if you are obedient from the heart and ready to do whatever he says, you will break that binge and purge cycle. And okay, you're tired. You're so tired, like, meaning just tired of the whole thing, tired of fighting. You're not saying you're tired right now and need to go to sleep. You're saying you're tired of this whole thing. Yeah, I understand. I can relate. I've been, there was a time where I was exhausted from the whole thing as well, and I could never get free myself. And then when I just, like, I grasped something about what the New Testament is really saying, and realized not only what God was offering to me, but what the consequences were going to be if I um, didn't say goodbye to my porn addiction. And I think it is that simple. But yeah, I'd still like to talk sometime. Begotten, not created. If you go to my community board, my phone number is there. So just can you text me? Okay. Jennifer Mulkey, am I up for discussing eschatology? I'm up for learning about eschatology. I am not very knowledgeable about it. Um, I, yeah, all I know is Jesus is going to come back to judge the world. When he gets back, a bunch of people are going to be caught up into the air. People are going to be raised from the dead. He's going to judge the world and bring in a never-ending kingdom of love and joy and peace. How exactly is everything going to unfold? Couldn't tell you. I don't think there's going to be I don't think anything needs to happen first before he comes back. I think he can come back anytime now. But I am not knowledgeable enough about this to be able to, speak authoritatively on it. Begotten, not created. Here it is. You want me to just? Who cares? It's out there anyway. So here it is. Ready? Sending it in the chat right now. That's my number. And okay, great. Yeah, I'm surprised you couldn't find it. I thought it was there. Yeah, so Jennifer, I'm not someone you want to go to learn about eschatology. I am someone who needs to learn about eschatology myself. I just, all I know is Jesus come back, judge the world. He's going to wrap it up, send us all to one of two places, and we just got to be ready. Well, unless anybody else. Oh, hey, Jennifer, if you want to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. I think I'm probably gonna sign off in about 5 minutes. Anybody else have anything else they want to talk about? $516. What is that? What is that area code? 516. What area code is that? Thank you, Nancy. God bless you. Thanks for joining us. You're in New York. What part of New York are you in? Okay, Devin said, do you believe the current nation state of Israel founded in 1944? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the people of God are all the people who are obedient to Jesus from the heart, Jews and Gentiles. I don't think that means God does not have some, that there isn't going to be some kind of revival among those who are ethnically Jewish. I'm not saying that, but I can't say that the nation state of Israel are the people of God. They would have to turn to Jesus in order to become the people of God. I don't see a way around that. Begotten, not created. I'm in Manhattan, so we can meet up. Yeah, I can hop on the A anytime. Come out and meet you. This is cool. I'll just text you back. Okay. Anything else in the next 3 minutes or so? $14 people. There's still a bunch of people that I don't know who. Bruno, how you doing? Is this Bruno in Australia? Is that Bruno? Okay, how you doing, my friend? How is the evangelism going? Well, I'm so glad that Nick is here with me, because that makes evangelism much, much better. There's two of us, and we've had some great, um, a great time reaching out. We're not, exactly turning the world upside down here in New York, but we're trying. And we did meet a guy a couple weeks ago who we met with twice now since meeting him. We met him. We were standing outside of a church holding a sign, trying to talk to people as they were coming out of the church. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Anyway, it's going okay. It's mostly like it's been. You talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of people. Almost nobody almost nobody contacts you, but every once in a while somebody does. It's just continued like that. Nick, someone asked if you want to say something.
No.
Nick says no. He does not want to say anything. He's a very silent man. Begotten, not created. I don't know why I wanted to be blunt. The description on your channel has piqued my interest to check out some of your videos. All right. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to connect. And please let me know what you think of the content on the channel. If there's anything that you disagree with, you got questions or objections or concerns, just let me know. Hopefully we can talk about it in person. Devin said, I'm currently thinking over when Jesus says, if you greet your brethren only, what reward do you have? And the implications. Yeah, I've thought about that too. Yeah. Who should I be? Oh, thank you, Nancy. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go. Thank you so much for joining me, and hope that, wow, something's happening. Is it what these things are flying? Someone's hitting the heart or something, or the like or whatever. Okay, lots of people hitting the heart, hitting things are flying all over the place. I guess that's a good thing. Okay, thank you so much, guys, and I'll try to do another one of these soon, and may God bless you all, and have a good night. How do I stop this? There's supposed to be a stop button. Where is the stop button, Nick? Oh, end stream. There it is right in front of me. Okay, bye, guys. Oh, wait. Bite Cat said, please just stay a few more minutes. Okay, what's up, Bite Cats? God bless you as well, Bruno. What's up, Bite Cats? What what is it that you want to talk about, Bite Cats? I was just wondering if it's okay to do drills with my Bible study group to practice nonviolence. I, I was just wondering if it's okay to do drills with my Bible study group to practice nonviolence. You mean like role play, like someone comes up to slap you or hit you or do something to you, like you're doing role play, like yeah, or like role play scenarios. Um, I don't see what would be wrong with that. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that, but couldn't say it's wrong. Um, yeah, it's an interesting idea. I'd like to sit in on that and see how it goes. It's interesting. Yeah, I'd like to hear some of the things you guys come up with. Like I'm sure you might come up with some creative responses to some really hard situations. I like in the past I've tried to think through like what are some creative things I could do in a situation, to disarm a situation or to uh, you know help help diffuse a situation. Um, anyway, maybe you could share with us, if we could do a live stream again soon, maybe you could share with us some of the things you guys have come up with. Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting idea by cats. What's your name? You mind me asking you what your name is? You don't have to tell me. If you want, you can email me or text me or whatever. Is there anything else? Devin. Oh, it's Devin. Oh, you're Devin. Are you Devin from South Carolina? Right. No, you're Devin. Devin in Japan. You're Devin with a Devon. I also know a Devin in South Carolina with an IN. So okay, so you're Devin. You're Devin from South Carolina. Okay. Okay. So you guys are doing role play on nonviolence. That's funny. Or maybe you're just joking around. I don't know. Either way. Um, okay. Well, thank you for that, Devin. Maybe we'll do some role play together when I visit next time, God willing. Oh, interesting. Role play with kids. Yeah. Kind of prepare them for some tough situations. That's interesting. Okay. I think, well, I mean, I guess I don't have to go. All right. Well, I guess I'll go. Um, 10 seconds to put out any other. What time is it over there? It's 11:07 p.m. Not that late. Not that late. Yes, we can pray for you, my friend. Anybody else on the chat? Please pray for. Oh man. Please pray for Kevin. Please pray for Kevin from Queens. Queens? Yeah. Please pray for Kevin from Queens. Um, we'll pray for you here, Kevin. All right, I guess I'm gonna go now. Kind of having fun, but I guess I'll go. 10 seconds to shoot out any other questions. 10, 9, 8. Going to end the stream unless someone says something else they want to talk about. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.